everyone. So we will have a very special lecture today because today we will organize an activity with the alumni relationship teams to have this talks about the finance work complex. So actually here are 5 graduates from the university. They graduate within 5 years. So actually they gone through what you have learned, you are going through now. And then actually I'm Jason, so I'm the lecturer in accounting and finance, and also I'm the course leader of the MSc Investment and Risk Finance. So today we have a number of recent graduates from also in the finance and account courses, and they will share some insight about job careers and also how to find a job when they graduate for past years ago. And also they will have a brief introduction, and then they will share some opinions, and then you will have a chance to ask questions afterwards. And also some college from the alumni team will also share some information about the employability opportunity provided by the university. So and after the event, you also have chance to have some social section with the alumni individually to have more discussion on their careers and also on their job hunting after graduation. So this session will be recorded, but students will not be recorded, and the recording will be available in the Blackboard afterward. And you are able to ask a question during the Q&A. You can raise your hand and ask a question. But if you are shy, then you can use this website and then ask the question anonymously. So this website will be activated, and this code will be shown you again in the Q&A section. Also, so please treasure this golden opportunity to have asked a question from the graduates, and also it will make your life different after this event. So today we will have 5 alumni speakers, and maybe each of you can introduce a bit yourself before we go to the discussion. Yeah.
Yes. Hi everyone. My name is Priscilla. I graduated in 2019. I graduated from finance, and since this is my 3rd job, so I moved from Fitch Ratings, where I was a credit analyst in Nasdaq, and now I'm currently a consultant in the financial industry.
Yeah, my name is Taha. I used to be here from 2014 to 2017, where I did the finance course. I've since then done a bit of equity research, but mostly fintech, where I did credit risk, and also done a bit of strategy within fintech. And I currently work with Citi in their global strategy team, Citi being the American bank. And I look forward to kind of interact with you over the next an hour or so.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Mario Ortega. I graduated in 2018, I think. Following my graduation, I went to Imperial College, where I did my postgraduate studies in finance and accounting, similarly to Taha. I then joined Societe Generale in the corporate and investment banking team doing oil and gas, and then did power utilities and infrastructure. And I then joined Evercore, which is a US independent advisory investment bank, where I covered energy in my 1st year, and I'm currently covering technology. So everything to do with mergers and acquisitions and capital raises, strategic advisory.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Ramlin. I graduated back in 2018, I believe. So I don't have any accounting background while I was studying. I did a placement here for NHS, and then upon graduation secured a job within them, and did that for 4 years because I did enjoy. I have a bit of curiosity with public accounts, and then I think only this year I decided to see what is the difference between public accounting and private accounts, and then I moved to a private company, so now I'm working in Euromoney, and been there now for I believe 7 months, and it's been really challenging, but accounting is accounting anyway. And yeah, that's it for me for now.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name's Princess Bright. I graduated in 2017 with a degree in accounting with management. When I graduated, I joined Deutsche Bank's graduate program, and I was with Deutsche Bank for 4 years, fulfilling multiple roles. I also did my ACCA and qualified as a chartered accountant. I got bored of banking, bored of finance, and then made a complete career change and joined Uber in November of 2021 as a senior operations and strategy manager, and I can go into more details about what that role entails. And outside of my 9 to 5, I'm heavily involved in local politics, and I'm currently a Labour Party councillor, and I've been in that role for 5 years. So that's me combining my career with my passion for politics.
Yes, so thank you for the introduction. So you can see you firstly graduate can work in some renowned companies and also in the finance and accounting sector. So you can see some of the graduate can work in an investment bank. So for the first question, talks about something maybe 4 to 5 years ago. So I think you experienced the job hunting for the final year. So what was that the experience for job hunting? Maybe when you soon to graduate. So is it not that easy to do it? And also how to prepare for your job hunting and interview or prepare a series? So just feel free to answer.
I think to start with is training. I think that would be, I guess, I'm not going to speak at this for myself, when these two next to me. I think you receive a lot of no before receiving a yes, and this is everywhere. I think now I've seen job as well, before we win a project, we receive a lot of no's, and you need to get used to it. But I think what helped me, every no you receive is good to ask for feedback why you received the no, so that you prepare for next time to better. And you need to learn from the no you received, and you need to accept that the no is okay until you find a job that suits you. And I think that's kind of my experience. I didn't start applying on my 3rd year, so I did an internship on my 2nd year. I think that helped a lot. And I think doing an internship, whoever's got the chance, it just gives you an idea ahead if this is something you want to do before you actually get into the job itself. So yeah, that's my experience.
Yeah, I think I agree with Priscilla with most of what she said, with all of what she said. I would just add that it really helped to have done an internship with one of these companies that you want to work for in your graduate entry position. It's really difficult to get an internship because there's a lot of people who are trying to get these internships, and there's competition from all over the place. So it's like really difficult to get the graduate job because it's really difficult to get the internship, but it's also really difficult to get the internship because that's how it is in your 2nd year. So what really helps, apparently, when I was at uni, I started applying from my 1st year. There was this thing called Insight Days that most banks and consulting firms and big corporations did for 1st year students. I know you're 2nd and 3rd year, so if you haven't done it, it doesn't really matter. But that kind of, the way that the big corporations work is that they take people from their Insight Day in their 1st year, they put them into, well, a lot of them, into their summer internship in the 2nd year, and then they take most of their summer interns in the 2nd year into their graduate class during the 3rd year. So it's like a pipeline of students that they mostly take from within the internships and the Insight Days into the graduate roles. So it makes it really hard to compete for the very few little jobs that are left for the graduates that haven't done internships with these very corporations that we're speaking about. So I think that was really challenging, to answer Jason's question. I have failed in many ways, as Priscilla said, a lot of no's. And I only did one internship during my 2nd year that wasn't really helpful, to be honest, in getting me a graduate role. And that because I really wanted to do something specific, and that internship didn't help me get into the specific thing I wanted to do, so tough luck. So I ended up doing a master's degree in finance and accounting, where kind of I had 1 extra year to try to get into that intern cycle, because without the internship, it's hard to get the graduate role. And luckily, in my 4th year of trying, I did manage to get a summer internship at a Canadian investment bank called the Royal Bank of Canada, and that really helped me a lot in my job pursuit after that. I was getting interviews much easier than I did before having the summer internship. So I would say that would be my kind of observation and experience over the 4 years I had during my undergrad and masters. And the key takeaways would be, you know, try to do internships in the places that you want to get the graduate roles in, even if you're graduating this year. Some companies take final year grads or final year students into their summer internship courses. If you fail that, then don't worry, keep at it after you graduate. You will surely get a summer internship. It's just about persistence. But Mario could tell you a little bit more about his experience.
So Taha was like a year ahead of me, and he was the first person I actually met here at Westminster Business School. And I saw him as like probably the #1 of his class. So I said, okay, I'm gonna follow whatever he did, right? And I genuinely did. So I completely second what he said until now. But I think you wanna ask yourself, okay, how do I differentiate myself from the colleague that I have besides me? Or, you know, I have no experience. How do I land an internship without any experience? And I think that's the moment when university actually comes in, and it gives you a lot of tools to be able to differentiate from the people around you. So Taha was president of the Economics and Finance Society. I became president of the Economics and Finance Society when he left. Taha joined Westminster Business Consultants. I joined Westminster Business Consultants that very same year. And that already gives you a lot of, it helps you trying to understand if what you think you like is what you actually like, right? So I did consulting. Consulting was okay. I did this finance, and I realized I liked it a lot better. So, you know, getting involved at university, I think what makes Westminster very different is exactly that. That gives you guys a lot of options to do stuff outside of your course. And what I would say in terms of job hunting is that, yes, you receive a lot of no's, but every no that you get is a no closer to your yes, right? Yes, you know, if you want a career in a competitive environment, you have to be extremely competitive yourself. So yes, work extremely hard, network a lot, and have perseverance. And because you are not, maybe you are down the line, you haven't landed the internship, you haven't landed the graduate program. Oh my God, what do I do? It doesn't mean that, you know, you cannot end up having the job of your dreams 2 years later after doing a postgraduate degree, which is what we both did at the same place. He went first, I went afterwards. And yeah, just find a way and just be really hardworking. So I would suggest.
Yes, hi. So I studied accounting, and in accounting, and for me, I wanted to be qualified accountant. So we have either, you know, you need to now understand whether you want to go ECCA or CIMA or other chartered qualifications. And the university actually offer that to you. They actually held certain events to invite either SSA professionals or CIMA to walk you through it, and then you can sign up as early as possible if that's what you wanted. It also increased your employability. And given to my experience in the university, I don't have any accounting experience, my background. I have hospitality, and I also take into consideration that when I graduated, I would be competing with fellow graduates, even though you don't want to think about that, but that will be the case. And then you have to think how you can start up. And then, luckily, the University of Westminster does offer a placement year. It is optional for you whether to take it. I took that. They offer a placement year for NHS, and then I was there for a whole year. I worked really hard. After the first 3 months, I said, "Oh my gosh, it's a wrong decision." I was crying because it was like very tough because I didn't have any accounting experience. But then I have a really good mentor because the lecturer helped you. Like, you know, you push through it, this is what it is. And then after that, I realized that then it was actually what I learned in the university. I just applied it to the working life, and it did help me. But when you're doing a placement year, you have to push yourself because they were willing to help you to grow, to gain as much experience as possible, but you have to ask for it because they will give you just, you know, a bit of taste. When I was doing a bit of a few areas, I have like 3, I asked my manager, I want more. And I said, I want to be part of your year-end accounts. I want to experience being audited, being prepare all of this stuff. So you need to ask for it, and they will give it. And that's also for you to show them that you actually also an employable, that you are willing to work. And then upon graduation, I get in touch. That's what they said, like, network. Told my boss that, ex-boss, that I graduated and I get my first class. I did work hard for that because mostly of our students, we also work at the side. And then they actually offer me that the role that I was doing when I was placement is still available if I would love to. But obviously, when you graduate, you wanted to have that, you want to travel the world because, you want to take a gap here, you want to like enjoy a little bit of freedom. I did say that as well, but it's also good when you're doing your placement if you have a also good manager, because you can actually look up to them. The piece of advice that I received from a manager is that when in my placement student, that you can travel at the same time, enjoy your life and working. You can do both, but you just have to make sure you balance it well. And I do agree when they said it's really hard for you to find a bit challenging for you to find a career out there if you don't have any experience or any other change of career, for example. Because I was doing a public accounting and then decided I want to do private accounts, and it was really a struggle for me. I have to say, it was like a lots of no. I nearly didn't believe that I can actually see, but I pushed myself through it, and now I'm actually finally get it. But obviously that's all to do with the working really hard and also show that you are capable of doing what you want to be. Especially, yes, I think the most challenging bits is because sometimes when there's environment, when there's a merger happening, there's manager will be not available, and you need to step up and show that your capability, and that's when you have to push yourself and believe yourself that you can actually do it. That's for me for now.
Thank you. I'm not going to reiterate what my other panelists have mentioned, but a few things that I am going to mention that hasn't been said already is the emphasis on soft skills. So obviously we're all at university, we're studying to get a degree, and we want to get jobs. Now of course our degrees are just obviously a degree written on a piece of paper, that's fantastic. But I'm sure you all know that there are a lot of people who are graduating with a 2-1 and with a first class who are struggling to get jobs in today's society, in today's current economic climate. So that's where your soft skills come into play. So looking at your communication skills, your team working skills, and these things you can highlight on your CV. So for instance, when you're doing group work in university, sometimes decide to take on the lead role, and on your CV you can say you led this piece of work and this is what happened X, Y and Z. So those soft skills I feel like are really, really important for you to stand out from your crowd, because like I said, everyone's going to university with the aim to graduate with a very good degree, but your soft skills can really differentiate you from your peers. Secondly, having a mentor. So while I was at university, and I'm not sure if that's the case now, there were schemes in place whereby an undergraduate could have a mentor of an individual who is already in the working life, and having that mentor gives you the real life kind of experience. You can ask them questions, find out what it is to actually have a 9-to-5, what are the things they do in their actual 9-to-5 role, because once again what you study in university is the theory, right? When you go into work, that's the practical, and it's most times different. Like I said, I graduated with first class in accounting and finance. What I was doing in Deutsche Bank wasn't really what I was doing in my exams. There's obviously a little bit of cross function between the both, but a lot of it is learning on the job. And that's why my colleagues have mentioned that internships are very important. Yes, they are, but everyone is trying to get internships. So try and stand out with the things like having a mentor, because obviously they can vouch for you. Your soft skills are really important to hone them out on your CV. And last but not least, I would say stuff like volunteering. So I'm sure there's opportunities for you to do volunteering at university, even if it's 1 to 2 hours a week. These things are great to highlight on your CV. Once again, it shows that you can balance, which is good, balance your studying with doing stuff that outside of university that you may not be getting financial rewards for. But employers like to see that, wow, this individual genuinely is able to balance. And last but not least, I know I'm waffling on too long, but sorry, that's just because I want to share as much as I can. While I was at university, I was a course rep. So I stood up for, you remember, I stood up for my course, putting forward things that I felt like could improve the study and the life of those at my university. I was also a senior student ambassador. Now, student ambassador role is actually paid at university, if anyone doesn't know, and I'm sure the employability team, if that's still the case, can help you and tell you how you can get onto that. That's something you can put onto your CV. Once again, employers like that because they can see that while you're studying, you're also taking paid employment for your university, which is also fantastic. So those are the few things that I would also like to highlight in addition to the amazing things that my panelists have already mentioned. Thanks.
Yeah, okay, so maybe I make a short conclusion before we go to the second one. So you can adjust, the alumni mentioned that internship is quite important, that means a related job working experience. So even you are the final year student, you can still have a chance to apply the internship program offered by the school. And also, you try to explore some employability activity organized by the university. So it also helps you to equip yourself because even you don't have the relevant working experience, so soft skill is quite important nowadays. Because actually, if you you know that there are a lot of finance graduate in different universities. So most of the students will learn the similar course. What you can outperform other is about one of the aspects is the soft skill. So whether you have a good analytical skill, good communication skill with other teammates, because usually in the finance world you need to work as a team or you need to communicate with the client. So communication skill, analytical skill, all these things are also important. And this skill can be trained up by enrolling different activity in the university, or maybe you have your own extracurricular activity on your own. So you can put it in the CV as well, because the CV we should not just include some professional qualification, and also we should put some achievement, okay, which can show your soft skill. And yes. So talk about soft skills. So some graduates work in accounting sector, some work in finance sector. So what kind of soft skill are essential in your industry?
Start with communication. Really here, I think communication is very important. And to go back, I think we said a lot of strong things. I don't want to sound like we sound demotivating. I mean, we got the job, you can get it as well. It's about perseverance. And communication gets you to it. Why I'm saying this is because when I was, for example, announced like my previous job, I had to interview people to get them the job, and really what it made a lot of difference for me when I was looking for a potential colleague was to see you just have an hour, and in that hour you need to show the person you are. And for whoever else to choose you instead of someone else, it makes a lot of difference to understand what kind of person you are. So just really show what you demonstrated through your communication, the person you are, what you can bring in. Because it makes a lot of difference. You don't want to work with a person you don't like for some reason. You don't want to work with someone. Although someone, and this got into fish by the way, they told me as a feedback. There was another person from LSE, he was from a good university, had a good background and an internship. The reason they didn't get him was because he wasn't as open and he didn't communicate effectively as much as he did. This demonstrates you don't want to work with a boring person, you don't want to work with someone too structured, you don't want to work with someone who doesn't know how to speak or to communicate to you. And communication is definitely, for me, a key.
Sorry, what was the question again? Was it
what
soft
kind
skills?
of soft skills?
Got you the job or soft skills in the job?
In the job, right? In the job.
Whilst at the job.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, this wasn't in the script, so we'll have to improvise. I think that having like a positive attitude is really, really important. So like, you know, we're very young ourselves or yourselves. We don't really have much to offer to our employer except being like, you know, hardworking, having like a really positive attitude, can-do attitude. What do I mean by that? I mean like being enthusiastic when picking up like your task or your job that your boss has given you. That's really important. Communication, as Priscilla said, but I won't repeat that. But really, it is having a good attitude, because the only capital that you have as a young employee is being enthusiastic, showing a can-do attitude, getting your hands dirty, showing the willingness to your boss that you're willing to put in the hours or just help and volunteer and being proactive in like, oh, can I do this? Can I help you fix this? It's really all about just fixing problems that your boss has to fix and he doesn't have time to do, but you're new, you're energetic, you haven't been through the grunt for decades. So being able to be have that kind of proactiveness is really key. So I would keep it short.
I agree. I think in terms of soft skills, you're going to use them throughout your entire career, so try to be as complete as possible across all of them. But something particularly to my current role is the attention to detail. So you need to make sure that, you know, when you're producing work, you're trying to, you know, not really complete errors, not make errors, especially if they're stupid. If you make mistakes, don't make the same mistake twice. That's very important. And then ability to learn. I think it's okay if you don't understand a concept once, but if you get it explained and then you still don't understand, you know, okay, it's okay not to understand, but, you know, dig into it, try to learn, and try to progress. Yeah.
I completely agree to what my colleagues have said. So I'm just gonna add, I think, to all that is like leadership as well. That's where all of those, you know, you can do, and that you actually, because you are willing to show that, because at the end of the day, when you're at work, you need to show that you have leadership and take responsibility of what are you doing in certain areas. What I mean by taking also the responsibility is that that's what one of my partners said, that you know, when you made a mistake and then you learn from it and then you work on it and then you try not to make it again, but you also not to be so tough about yourself, because you're actually learning, you know, you learn, as what Princess said earlier, you learn some of the practical on the job. So and then it's easy to it's okay to make mistake, but what stands out the most is you own up for it. You take responsibility of the mistake that you made, and then you point out that, and then what will I say is that you analyze what you have done wrong, because it will show that you actually seen your mistake, and then you then give suggestion on how you can fix it. That also show as well that you actually have the initiative to correct what was wrong, and you showing your also your knowledge about your role or your job. So, right.
Last one I will add to what my colleagues have already mentioned is one, teamwork. And I'm sure you probably all have to work in teams in like courses at your university degree. The teamwork's very, very good, especially important in the corporate world or whatever role you go into, because it's not just you trying to win, it's you trying to win and bring in everyone along with you, not trying to pull anyone down. And second one I would say is also organizational skills. In my last role, I remember I was sitting on a panel to interview graduates, and one shocking thing that I saw was graduates always turn around and send me messages on LinkedIn saying, Princess, oh, I want to get into this role, I've got an interview, I'm preparing for this interview, that's fine. And they turn up to interviews late. I've seen numerous graduates, undergraduates turn into interviews late. It's like, where are your organisational skills? How would you expect us as an employer to employ you if you can't even turn up to an interview late? What about when you get the role? You're going to turn up to a meeting that starts at 9, at 9:30? Question mark. So yeah, organisational skills are very, very important. Same with university, turning up to lectures late. That's one thing I avoided doing. Obviously, sometimes there are things that are beyond your control, but just starting those kind of practices from early on, it just makes it routine for yourself once you graduate.
Yeah, so number of graduates share the essential skill, soft skill for the workplace. So actually, you know that the soft skill cannot be built up overnight. Usually, you need to keep accumulate experience, and so that's why I always say that actually studying in the university, we don't just focus on the knowledge itself. So each assessment is training up your problem solving skill. If this is a group project, so it's training up your communication skill, organization skill with your classmates. So all this assessment, all this activity facilitate you to work in the career after graduation. So maybe talks about something related to the working environment after COVID. So is there any change of the working environment after COVID? And also maybe whether there will be some change on the interview arrangement or job hunting process after COVID? Maybe we start from Princess this time.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm sure most of you are aware now that COVID has changed the way of working. Most organisations have moved to a hybrid working model. Some of them, you'd probably see some remotes are fully, some roles are fully remote. I wouldn't say it's changed in terms of the context of your day-to-day, but as an individual you probably have to adapt to the fact that you probably won't be seeing your colleagues physically on a daily basis. Interviews are also taking place a lot virtually. So when I was even interviewing for my role at Uber, none of the interviews were in person. So they were over Zoom, over MS Teams, and I guess, like I said, the actual interview itself was the same. The questions weren't, I guess, much different, but it's just that you're probably doing it in a more comfortable environment. I think as an individual, you'd have to adapt in the sense that you won't really have, like when you're starting up as a graduate, if you're coming into an organization where you're fully in the role, you'd have so much probably hands-on support because you're seeing all of your colleagues, you're starting as a group, you can turn to your managers directly, get answers from them straight away when you're in person. But whereby roles are more remote or hybrid, you may not have that like integral support when you're starting the role initially. So it's just more on the individual to do a bit more of their self-development, self-learning on themselves to make sure that they feel comfortable in the role that they're working at. But for me, for me personally, I feel like this hybrid working model is positive, I guess, because it just shows that times are changing, and traditional roles that I guess back in the day people thought that could only be done in the office, COVID has proven that that's not the case, and that you can work remotely, you can work from your home, you can work from another country. And I think that's great for those of us who are quite innovative. So in my role at Uber, it's a fully like hybrid working model. So you can work from wherever, any country, anywhere. And I think that's great because it gives you the flexibility and autonomy to really own the work that you're doing without feeling strained or constrained to having to go into the office every single day. So yeah, I think COVID has really opened up doors to basically allow us to have that flexibility, which I think is fantastic.
So I think I will start with when I was working in NHS where we always, so COVID really did affect also our working environments, and that's when we actually pursue about mental health into the workplace, because there's some different type of people who actually, it's easy for them to learn being with someone or showing them like there's somebody next to them and then showing them stuff, and there's people who prefer that it's virtual. So I think during NHS when I was working there, they actually kind of like encourage people to go for a walk for 15 minutes, like, you know, and then again with your manager, they like encourage you, have you been for a walk before the meeting start. First there's like more of like, you know, just asking everybody what they've been doing, did they have taken how's everything. But in terms for the by your new role now, they have introduced 0.3 working, where we take actually a half day on a Friday, and so we have a half day off. You have a choice also whether you want to work for full day on any of the Friday and take whole Friday off. And we are working from home, as in COVID have actually shown us what my princess have said, that, you know, that some of the job that you can actually do for remotely, or, you know, at home, or you can go to the office. So as I said, we're currently working now. We actually work from home. Nobody's actually mandatory to go to the office, unless if you want to, then you can come. Most people come the, you know, Thursday. This is the new Thursday, this is the new Friday thing, because most people now come on the Thursday. But going back to NHS, when I was there, we're actually working from home. But change about COVID is that because we need to be vaccinated for that, for the role, because you're gonna be working with patients and things like this. But yeah, that's all I can actually say for in terms for the affected of the COVID afterwards.
Yeah, in my industry, we saw huge benefits of working from the office. We see that there is a strong lack of productivity when you're working from home, at least in the long term. So we are now working 4 days out of 5 from the office. It's good to work from home on Fridays because it's very intense. So it's good to wake up a little bit later. I second what Princess said, that you know, that my bank at least understands that when you're working from home, you also do your work. You still work well. So it's okay if, oh, I need to work from home because I have a plumber coming. It's more broadly accepted. I think it's very important that you're exposed to the workplace early in your career. and I don't know if you read my bio, but I worked in luxury perfumes, and I actually met the CEO of that company that I worked for last week, and he changed my mind on this, because I was like, oh, I love working from home, but he's like, it's really not the best thing for your career, because generally when you're in the workplace, exposed to your colleagues, exposed to conversations, even if you are hearing like through an open meeting door, you just pick up a lot more things than when you're working from home. And then in terms of the selection process, I think you will see that a lot of initial interviews will happen over Zoom, but at least for us, assessment centers take place in the office, and yeah, I think we're not gonna be fully hybrid.
I have nothing to add.
I think this is an extra question that comes out. So if you're in interviews before you start to go to work, so this is just, for example, my first job, you go Monday to Friday, this is it. If you have plumbers coming, the washing machine is broken, you still go to work. Now it's nicer, and this depends on you as well. So different places offer different things. I'm more of an in-person thing, so I like seeing people, their emotion, and feel them more, face to face. Some people don't like this, so this is a question you might want to ask if you get to an interview. This is something you can ask. I think it's a good question to ask nowadays. So this is maybe an extra thing. Before it wasn't a thing to ask. I think nowadays you do ask, how do you work? How does the team work? Some managers don't like to come to the office. They prefer working, many of them work outside and live outside London. So for them the commute is long and they don't like to come. Some other people do like to come into the office, and this is something you can use as well with them. I.e., if you go to an interview, you ask them what's the environment, if you see what they communicate to you, meaning I'm a person who likes face-to-face, then you can say, oh, I love face-to-face too. Or kind of.
Yeah,
Actually,
so,
yeah, it's a bit, sorry, just to add,
yeah.
it's a bit tricky actually, because it depends on your, you should be aware of this, meaning that if your new job is all about working from home and you're a very extroverted person, then you're really going to struggle.
Yeah.
If you're like a super introvert and you enjoy just being alone all the time, then that's good. So bear in mind that it will really affect the way you are going to experience the job, because you're going to hate the job no matter what if you're not enjoying the fact that you're alone in your bedroom all day, 5 days a week.
And another thing to ask before, just to ask the last thing is, some companies, for example, us that where I used to work before, you could work from wherever, like Princess said, with Uber. So you can work from, I don't know, from Italy, so from Italy, you go to New York, work from New York, and so on and so forth. Some companies said they don't allow you to. So if you're interested in traveling while working, some jobs offer this as a package, but this is maybe something else you want to ask. That's an interesting question, I think, for the interview.
Yeah, so you can see work from home is common for this job, office job after COVID, and I think that self-discipline is quite important, because the manager will not sit next to you. Okay, so that means you still need to meet the deadline, and you still need to work hard, and also you need to communicate with the college proactively, because you need to seek help. Otherwise, you get lost. Maybe if you have some problem for your project, and then you should ask your college or senior proactively so as to finish the task on time. So maybe we can let's discuss about your existing job. So maybe you can describe a bit about your existing the job description or existing job, and the major challenge for the existing job and how to tackle it. So again, maybe we start from Princess.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So my current role, I'm a senior operations / strategy manager at Uber. So completely different to what I was doing at university, completely different to what I was doing post-university for the first 4 years of my career. So for me, I got a little bit bored of like the traditional like banking, finance role, and I was just looking for something different, something that's a little bit more hands-on, something that's a little bit more problem-solving, like that uses my problem-solving skills. And I wanted a bit of experience in like a technology, start-up to an extent company. And obviously I came across a really, really interesting role at Uber, which I applied for and was successful. So my current role at Uber spans across many different areas, and just to give you like a high-level overview of it, it looks at number one, driver acquisition. So how can we try and get more drivers onto our platform? How can we make sure that our platform is the best for our drivers? So basically trying to make sure that drivers are not driving for Ola or our competitors Bolt. So that looks at for instance, pricing technology. Do we need to look at our pricing technology? Do we need to increase our prices, decrease our prices? What can we do to make sure that more drivers want to sign up with us to basically drive for Uber? And on the rider facing side, what can we do to make sure that riders are really happy with the prices that we're putting forward to them, so that they're not requesting a trip from Ola or Bolt? And that's just not about pricing, that also looks at reliability. So if you pick up your Uber app today and request an Uber, how long do you have to wait to get an Uber? If you're basically coming home on a Friday night, are Ubers available in the locations that you want to get an Uber from? So that's number one, about acquisition. And second one is about engagement. How can we basically make sure that once we get drivers onto our platform, they're really happy and they want to stay on our platform? So that looks like incentives. What can we do to basically incentivize our drivers, whether it's through referral schemes? So we say if you introduce another driver, you'll get X amount of credits, you'll get X amount of money. Or if it's basically running initiatives whereby we basically let drivers, for instance, have X amount of trips. So if you take 5 trips today, you will get X amount paid out or whatever. And then another thing is working with unions. So Uber is an organisation which is part of the gig economy, and they have a trade partnership deal with a union, meaning that drivers are essentially protected and given working rights. So they're given the ability to have access to pensions, holiday pay, sick pay, etc. So making sure that we're working quite closely with the unions to make sure that we're delivering effectively for our drivers and making sure that they're happy on our platform. Another thing looks at the app itself, like what can we do to make sure that our app is user friendly? Is it that drivers have any bugs or outages? Are maps basically taking drivers down the right roads, or they're not taking drivers down the right roads? So it's just a lot of strategy, operations, problem solving, thinking outside of the box. And that's one reason why I wanted to move to a role whereby I can kind of put myself in the shoes of the driver. So empathy is very, very key in my role, because I need to put myself in the shoes of an Uber driver. What is it that they would want? What is it that our couriers would like when they're delivering food to our customers? What is it that they would want to see? What is it that's going to encourage them to basically be a courier on our platform or a driver on our platform? So yeah, it's a lot of problem solving, completely different to the traditional role that I was doing in investment banking. But I'm glad I made that change quite early on, because I know breaking into technology isn't easy, but the fact that I've been able to do it quite early on in my career, I think is great, whilst balancing my role as a councillor for the Labour Party.
So for me, I just recently get this job. So I'm actually first in the role for 7 months now, I believe. So what is my role is completely different from the others, because I'm in management accounting role. So we have month-end, those kind of things. So we try to look at KPI and sorry, can you just repeat the question again?
So job description,
yes,
the challenge phase, and how to tackle it.
Okay. So the challenge that I actually was facing, I'll start with that. The challenge that I was facing is because I used to work in NHS. So NHS is a public accounting, and your money is a private accounting. So the two is different. NHS on its own, it has its own accounting, and in terms of reporting, there's different type of business rules that you need to follow. And I was curious, because now when you know, sometimes when you actually been so long for the job, I think I was been doing that for 5 years, I feel like I need some more challenge now, because you kind of like know what's happening. There's nothing more like challenge you after that. So, and then I decided to look at the private accounts to see, compare and contrast, got a bit of curiosity, completely different from what I was doing. And now I look after employability and overheads, which is in NHS. I was looking after projects, done some projects for transformations on what we can do for, you know, to improve services. But in your money, I look after employability and overhead. So in here we look at KPI just to double check on what is actually driving the variance, which one we need to look at, and then why we have a lot of redundancy or why we have a lot of people leaving, those kind of things that you need to consider, and which is quite new to me, because I was based on the operation. I have not looked after that. So also that by overhead, so with that we also take into considerations different type of contracts. But Well, I think that it was actually kind of challenging for me, because to jump to different type of accounts and just to embrace it. But one thing I just tell myself, going back to soft skills early on, that if you believe yourself you can do it, that you can, and that you're willing to learn, employer will see that, and then you just show that in your roles. And so far, at the moment, actually in my role now, doing so good actually. It was challenging, but it was okay. Hopefully.
So I work within investment banking, and investment banking normally can be split two different ways. You either work for like a sector group or you work for a product group. In my case, I work in a sector group, so I'm focused on technology within IMEA, and then within technology I then do a variety of products. That being mergers and acquisitions, strategic advisory, shareholder activism and defense, and I also do capital raises. What I spend most of my time doing is M&A, which is advising private equity funds or corporates on buying and selling assets within technology. So yes, maybe you have a private equity fund who wants to invest in software space in Spain. What we do is that we give them different opportunities. We tell them how much they should pay for it. We help them on the negotiations with the shareholder of the counterparty, and we make a lot of money out of that. Yeah, that's the most complex thing about my job is that it's quite stressful. The days are very, very intense. The hours are very, very long. And I think the only way of reducing that is by being more efficient in the way in which you work. And then the other thing is that it's very important that you don't make errors, because yeah, you're dealing with really large transactions. You are dealing with very senior teams, CEOs, and you don't want your team has a very strong reputation. At least in the case of my bank, it has a very strong reputation, and it takes very little to ruin it. That's it.
Cool. So I'm just about to start my new job. I'll use that as the answer to the first question, but then use my previous job as the answer to the second question. I will be doing global strategy for Citi, for the corporate and investment bank. What my team will be doing is mainly focusing on executing the CEO's strategy of leaving retail. Citi is trying to leave retail across Mexico, LATAM, some parts of Europe, and some parts of Asia. That is retail banking. And they're trying to kind of focus only on the corporations that they serve in these countries with their various products. Anything from what Mario does, which is M&A, but at Citi, to lending, to capital markets, raising money, and also sales and trading, etc., public offering, etc. So my team will be focused on kind of the corporate investment banking side of the strategy for the business. And what I will be doing exactly is helping our clients, the institutions, the corporations, to become more clients of Citi, help us acquire clients more efficiently, and help us to kind of cross-sell products to clients. So if we have a client that joins or becomes a client of Citi in Hong Kong through their, let's say, private wealth management, for example, a big CEO in Hong Kong becomes a client of Citi Wealth Management because he's really wealthy and Citi manages his wealth, then we will try to cross-sell him to run his business finances. So if his business needs any advisor on the M&A front or on the public offering front, equity public offering or debt public offering, we will try to kind of have the most efficient way of kind of cross-selling products to clients. And the mandate is really broad, so that's just one example of what I'll be doing at Citi. But I'll use my previous job where I spent 3.5 years to answer the second part of the question, which is the challenge and the how to tackle challenges. I think the biggest challenge was in my previous role, where I was in fintech, basically working in strategy, was to manage stakeholders. So my stakeholder was the CEO and the head of strategy in the business. That was really difficult because CEOs have very kind of tight deadlines and they're really busy all the time. And you need to be able to communicate really effectively with the CEO for business, communicate your ideas in a way that's really effective but also persuasive and cut to the chase, whether it's written communication or verbal communication. And you also need to kind of be able to maneuver your way through like corporate politics, if you may say. That's also a big thing that you don't learn at uni, but you kind of learn as you go on the job. Being able to kind of understand when is the right time to propose something, or where is the right time to launch a new initiative or present a slide deck, and how to communicate with people in their own way. So for example, you have your own emotional biases and ways of thinking about things, so that when I'm presenting a deck to you, it's going to be different to when I'm presenting a deck to Matthias, who I happen to know his name. Because of, everyone has different ways, and especially when people are really senior, they all have predispositions and biases that makes them act or think in a specific way, and you should be able to leverage that and be smart enough to use their own language and the ways of that they like to see things if you want to convince them. So that's really it.
That's myself. I'm a consultant, so this has been maybe my 6 months of pretty new. Consultant is intense, so don't go there if you expect a 9-to-5 job. It doesn't happen, it doesn't exist, there's no balance. So that's, I think, is the challenge, to find a balance where there is no balance. We work, it's really weird, I find the challenge in myself, so I'm quite structured, quite organized, I like to believe. Our work is quite harder because if your manager calls you, doesn't matter if it's 1 a.m., 6 a.m., Sunday, Monday, it doesn't matter. You're on holiday, doesn't matter, nothing matters anymore. It's hard to put and then when you're the junior, so it's hard to say, okay, how much can you push back and and accept. So there needs to be a balance. They tell you that there needs to be a balance. You need to be through the balance, and sometimes it's not as easy. So I think there's a struggle, and we like to work. I think myself, I'm an hard-working person. I love what I do. And sometimes that's this challenge, right? You want to stay with friends, hang out because you're young and you want to have a life. But at the same time, you really like what you do, and it's quite important. It's hard. What I do is we work with the financial services. Could be a bank, could be asset management, could be a private equity. So we do a broad spectrum, and we kind of do everything as well. So if there is a bank who's got a problem with regulations or they're being sued for something, we help them. If there is a strategy improvement, cost cutting, we do that as well. The challenge there is, once again, manage expectation and work with different stakeholders to reiterate what Ta said. So sometimes it happens you just with one client, and that's okay. Sometimes it happens you're working with different banks. So for example, as an example, we work with the Lebanese government, we work with Saudi, we work with Amsterdam, with some banks there, we work kind of everywhere, and it's hard. You need to think about time differences, but you need to think about, okay, what does the angle, and sometimes the angle is really important, because there's companies might shut, there's a restructuring things happening, there's people, like, I don't know, Credit Suisse is cutting jobs. There's a lot of things that happen, in fact, affect a lot of people, so how do you present this, how do you go to a CEO meeting telling them that they need to, I don't know, cut tons of people's jobs and things like that noise.
Yes, okay. Student can understand how what's the will work and what's the major challenge they will face. So maybe we'll talk more about the use of the IT skill in your job, because you know that now especially working in the finance sector, so maybe the employer require the staff to use to know some programming knowledge. So do you think that it is important in your center? Maybe start in the middle this time. Mario first.
So we don't program a lot within mergers and acquisitions, but yeah, you have to be very good with everything to do with Microsoft Office.
Yeah.
And then it's more than the IT itself, it's like what you do with it. So we do a lot of modeling, so like financial modeling, and that's quite important. Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, so in my sector for accounting, I think what Mario said, Microsoft Office, but most importantly what we normally use is Excel. So if you actually, I'll give you three things and formula that you probably will help you a lot if you don't know it yet. Pivot table is very helpful when you present things, because you're going to be looking at thousands of informations in terms of my role as management accountant. You need to reconcile them by countries as well, because you're just not looking after UK. In my role, I look after UK, US, Bulgaria, India, and some in Hong Kong. So you need to have a good Excel skills, and VLOOKUP is very helpful. And then also when you do certain things because when you do VLOOKUP, concatenate, I don't know if you hear that, concatenate, but that's how you create a certain unique key for you to create certain formula in SUMIF. I think that's in terms of my role.
Yeah, I wouldn't say in my role Excel's needed that much, but it's more like your presentational skills. So you'll be presenting a lot of decks, and within those decks you obviously have to be analysing data. So I guess if Excel's the best for you to use in terms of analysing data, that's fine. But for me, since joining Uber, I've probably had to use like Office, like PowerPoint the most out of any of the like Office.
Yeah, so I agree with everyone. Office is really important, especially as I said earlier, when you're young and you're just a grad, you don't really have much to offer except fixing like problems and doing really basic stuff, which is what we still do for a lot of what we do in our jobs, even 4 or 5 years down the line. So Excel, PowerPoint, but I would actually add coding. I think maybe 50 years ago coding was not like a thing, and even if it's investment banking that you're after, or sales and trading, or whatever it is, or consulting, I think coding is really good, because back to my fixing problems point, coding is a really good way of fixing problems. And if you're the only grad in your office that can actually fix problems using coding, whether it's VBA or Python or Java, then that's like amazing, right? Because you're the guy that's the go-to guy for like fixing problems, and that's just what you want to be, basically. And I'll give you a very good example of this. I mean, I think a year ago, back to kind of Mario's point about not using coding, one of my managers who managed me during my internship at RBC is now an investment banker. He's like very senior in an MD. He's an investment banker at like an investment bank, and I was texting him about something else, but then he was like, he just asked me a question about how to solve a problem, just because, why not? And the question was, he wanted to basically go on a website. He used to cover telecoms companies, so like your Vodafone, your Orange, etc. So he advised telecom companies on mergers and acquisitions. He wanted to have one of his teams, his analysts, so people who are my level or higher, to be able to go through Vodafone's website, for example, and go through each postcode in the UK and loop through postcodes, as in like go through all the postcodes in the UK and see if Vodafone is offered in all of these postcodes, or like build a map of where Vodafone coverage exists. So that's not like a really fancy task to do, but it's the only way to do it is through being able to code in Python and Java. So I mean, he asked me if we're, or you could do it manually. Yeah, if you want to, you can take like 5 days, which is what the analyst ended up doing, by the way, probably. I told him there is a way of doing it using code. So I'm just saying, like, this is an example of where coding, I think, is really useful, and will be useful in the future, because it really makes things easier. But then, of course, also the basic traditional skills of being able to use Excel and Microsoft Word, these are also really, really important.
I would just say for coding myself. So investment banks, these guys are all updated. I think coding is the future. I think if you go there, anywhere you go, and you show that you can do something this, it blows their mind. It's the future. I think coding is the way forward. If you know how to code, usually if you know how to code, you'll be able to open Excel, do a PowerPoint. That comes later, first.
So that's why the computer language, the coding, Python, is increasing in popular nowadays. So maybe you can try to learn it on your own, or take some course on your own, so it can increase your employability as well. So let's give the chance to the student to ask a question. So any question?
Specific question. My name is Daniel. I'm a final year finance student, and I've just done an internship in S&P in strategy and operations. And I wanted to ask Princess if you think that the banking experience has helped you get to a more senior role within a corporation, or do you think maybe going straight into a strategy role would be a good way to build a career and get to like a leadership position? And anyone else feel free to answer as well.
Thanks for the question. So I feel like, considering the fact that I graduated with a degree in accounting, it would have been harder for me to get to where I am now at Uber if I tried to get straight into technology, because most of the time people who go into like tech companies have a background in like consulting, so they don't tend to, they would favor someone with a background in consulting as opposed to someone in banking. So I would say if you're really keen, so obviously you said you're studying strategy,
Oh, I did an internship in strategy and operations.
Okay, so because you've got that experience at the moment, I would carry on in that trajectory because that's where your experience lays at the moment. With me, I had no experience in strategy and operations, but some of the roles, sorry, that I did in, sorry, can someone else take it on?
What do you want to do?
Yeah, so I've got a cough.
Like, I don't know, I guess like a long-term plan would be to be like, I guess, a company executive, I suppose. But I don't know if like, I've heard people say that consulting and banking would get you that like faster. But
Isn't that what everyone wants to do though? Become a
yeah,
company.
yeah.
I'm kind of choking, so if someone else can come in now, then I'll come in later. That'd be helpful.
I mean, I can only answer in the context of fintech because
Yeah,
I've done it
yeah.
for 3 years, and Princess is also doing it now. We used to hire a lot of people from banking or consulting, and I do agree with your point that you come in more senior if you come in from banking and consulting into fintech. So we have a lot of hires from like the investment banks and the consulting firms into like really senior roles. Well, not really senior, but like mid-level roles in fintech, even if they had like 3 or 4 years experience in banking and consulting. So like, yeah, these big names help you basically, like the SMBs of the world and the Fitches and
Maybe I would just add, if you follow a career in investment banking and you want to move to tech, you probably move into a corporate development or CFO role. If you follow a career in strategy, you probably end up as a COO, if that helps. So the skill set is slightly different. And I do think that if you follow a career in banking or in consulting, you will progress faster into a career in strategy. As an example, we had an analyst 3 leave about a month ago, and he moved as a CFO to a startup, tech startup. So that's a good example. And it's not a huge tech startup, but if you're pursuing a quick career into strategy and you want an executive role, it's better, it's easier. Hands up. I don't see well, so it's about 50% of it. And people that want to do accounting, how many people want to do accounting? No?
Or because they are major in finance, so maybe they are not that interested in accounting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And anybody wants to share their experience on how you found recruitment so far? Have you actually tried applying for jobs?
If you don't want to put your hand up, there's the
Yeah.
down there, which isn't, I put it
Type
in
like
white,
an
which
essay,
isn't too
how to
smart.
answer.
But you can submit your questions anonymously as well. But do take advantage of this opportunity.
We don't bite. You can take that. We were sitting there, I was sitting there, what was it, 3-4 years
Yes.
ago?
So I did an internship at S&P as well. My name is Timotei and I do finance and business management course, my last year as well. And I've done an internship in quite a specific sector, so it was bond pricing. And how the process was, again, I got a lot of no's, and then out of nowhere, where I kind of almost gave up, this opportunity came by, and I really took the kind of a chance on it, and went to Bloomberg to get data, did a presentation, so they were really impressed by how much time and effort I put into that. But yes, I would definitely say that I find it funny how some that I'm still applying for graduate roles now don't take into account like having work experience, like proper work experience, because I currently, and a year before, worked as a business development analyst at the oldest crypto exchange. I know it's crypto, which, for example, investment banks like and more traditional firms don't really regard as like super good experience, right? But it's still work that you did, and they don't look at that as a good experience. I would say they value more I don't know, I feel like something else. So, and my question was, what is one of like the skill or some other thing that you feel like the people coming into the industry are missing nowadays?
What industry is this? Banking?
So yeah, banking, for example, or I don't know, consultancy. If you will.
So do you mean besides all of the work experience, what else is it that you
Yeah, or what do you see that people are missing when applying for roles? Would you say like, oh, I wish this person had, for example, this, I don't know, skill that they don't really teach at uni maybe?
Can I just stop it? I think the first thing that we receive when we receive anything is the CV. I think getting a CV is the first thing. Like you need to have a, don't write these 3-4 pages. No one's got time. Like he works at the night and we work at the night. We work. We all work a lot, and we have to do because we want to get new people. That's gonna help us. Having a long CV to go through is just. That's why we say 1 page or 2. When I was with university, it was like, oh, write 2 pages, 1 page. I don't know. There's different formats, different things. I think having a clear, simple CV just says this is who I am is much more effective than I think a lot of words.
I would say that don't take it personal. I think your experience is valued. It's just, you are competing with a lot of people, right? If we receive, I can tell you that if we receive 500 CVs, the first half gets thrown away because we don't have time. Okay, so a lot of it gets down to luck. Okay, what has helped me in getting a job? So just so you know, there was an event like this, I was sitting at the front, right, and I was making eye contact with the guy from Goldman, right, the whole time. It's genuinely, I tried very hard. I tried to get I tried out of Westminster Business School. I tried to get a career in banking. I failed. I went to Imperial. I sat at the front of the class. I was really, really hard working, and I didn't get an interview. I didn't get an interview until my finals, right? You start hearing all your colleagues start like, oh, I got a summer internship at Barclays. They have half of the experience that you have, right? So the way you have to see it is that you have to tick boxes. Good university, good degrees, relevant experience, okay? And then in competitive industries, what you have to realize is that you're going to be spending a lot of time with the person besides you, okay? So the human connection when you are at the interview is so important. And there is actually a way of you to connect with people. In the first job interview that I had, I nailed the interview, but what made me different was that I knew exactly who I was speaking to and how I was going to connect with them. I went through their Facebook. I tried to find points in common. Okay? No. 100% FBI
we all do
exercise.
it, I think. We all do it.
Yes.
You go prepare to an interview.
And then I do the interview. I tick the boxes and technical interviews well, and then the last question is, what are your hobbies? And I was just hoping for him to ask me that question. I was hoping because I was going to tell him techno, because I knew he likes techno, right? And then he tells me, oh, I like techno too. I remember his eyes opened up, and I told him, oh, do you know this DJ and this DJ? And he's like, no, I don't know that DJ or that DJ. I told him, well, if I get to work with you, I can show you some good techno, right? So that was an example. Then I had the second interview that day with a girl, extremely good-looking girl. Sorry for saying this, but I can imagine people like, being uncomfortable saying that. And I knew that I had to be calm and I had to connect somehow. She was Portuguese, I'm Spanish. We opened the interview, I tell her, we're actually neighbors. They're from Portugal, I'm Spanish. Great. Then got invited to the next round. The next guy used to play rugby. I play rugby. Great. Then I meet the MD, and he actually is the one that connected with me. He started talking to me about Valencia, where I go for the summit, and orange boxes and something else. I have no idea what he meant, but let's play along. And that's how it worked. And that's the skill. I think you have to be able to connect with people, be able to influence people, and also one more thing is being resilient. Okay, like you're gonna be in a very competitive industry where it's hard to get in, but it's actually more difficult to succeed in it. Okay.
I'm just gonna add to that. Because when you were doing an interview, they asked you like, you have any questions, right? And just to say how I get this job, I was just like, you know what? I would actually ask how where you get your revenue from, but I read your financial statements and I know how. So my question would be: are you happy with your role? Are you happy with your your work in your working environment? And then it was pure silence. Pure silence. And then he said, well, there's some challenges. I said, okay, then challenges is enough for me. That's fine. That's what I'm looking for anyway. Yeah, that's what they do. You need to, like, when you come there, you need to connect with them, and then that you know that, okay, then fine. And then, yeah. And then sometimes it's the less expected that come to you. The one that you think, oh gosh, I get it. But the one that you just come along there because you just had enough of a lot of no's. That's not for me. I get a call the following day, on the day. And then, yeah, we want to give you the work. I'm like, oh, really? Are you sure? I said, yeah, okay, thanks. So, it's very important when they ask you about, do you have any questions? That's very important. And try to make sure that you would know the company that you're applying for, that you know what you're actually bringing to them. Like, yeah, I got the skills, so this is just what I need. Yeah?
Yes, I think the question about hobby is quite important. Because actually, when the employer wants to ask you about your hobby, actually he or she wants to know about your character as well. So because you can show that, for example, your hobby is playing football, just a very normal hobby. But actually, you need to express how playing football and can help you to build up some soft skills. So again, it's related to the soft skill. And as I received some questions in the Manometers, so a student asked how to stand out in the job assessment and also video interview process.
Do you mean the assessment center?
Yeah, so that means maybe some written assessment or some scenario analysis, probably.
I think like when it comes to the face-to-face interviews or like just the interviews being positive, like showing that it really shows if you really want a job. Like there are a lot of interviews I went to where I didn't really want the job that much. It was just like a hedge and it was obvious. So being positive, smiling, showing that you want the job will come across, definitely. So that's when it comes to kind of the interviews. The second part was video assessment.
Yeah.
What's that? Like an interview?
Yeah, video interview.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Another one I would say, and this is just feedback I can give from when I was running assessment centres back at Deutsche Bank for undergrads, I would say being very prepared. So coming to the interviews, coming to the group assessment centres, being prepared. I guess sometimes, I wouldn't say you can predict the questions that can be asked, but sometimes if you're just doing a bit of your background, reading about the company itself, about the division that you want to, that you're applying for, making sure that you know about the division, some of the key changes that the bank may be going through. So I'm talking about obviously when I was at Deutsche Bank here, because at Uber we don't really recruit undergrads, so that's completely different. But yeah, while I was at Deutsche Bank, it's for you as an individual to come prepared, come willing, make it evident that you want the role and that you're passionate about the role. And then when you have the group, so within the assessment centre, sometimes you have group tasks whereby you may be given like a scenario and you need to basically discuss it and then come to like a conclusion. I would say don't be the person who is always willing to do the most talking in those group assessment centres, because sometimes it may seem as if that you're just trying to stand out too much without bringing everyone along. I say it's good to take lead, so leadership is good, but at the same time let everyone else add input. So that's in the group. So sometimes you have group tasks within the assessment centres. That's if you're going down the investment banking route. Make sure that you're bringing everyone along. You're trying to make sure that everyone is engaged in the like discussion. So I remember when we had to go back and then do marking, sometimes individuals would be marked down if they're basically just trying to do all the talking, talk above people, not letting other people speak, not letting someone else's voice be heard. You will essentially be marked down from that. Well, that's a criteria that I was basically given Deutsche Bank, but obviously it may vary at different investment banks. But yeah, try and bring everyone along with you. And also one more thing I would say is your cover letter. So I remember when we were interviewing once again at Deutsche Bank, and there was an undergrad who was interviewing for the finance division, and their cover letter, it was evident that they were applying to so many different investment banks, and they had forgotten to change the details for Deutsche Bank, and it had Morgan Stanley on there. So they said, I'm really, really keen to join Morgan Stanley's finance division for X, Y, and Z. and we read it and we thought, wow, so you are literally keen to come to Deutsche Bank, but you've given us a cover letter for Morgan Stanley. So that just shows, one, lack of attention to detail, two, lack of just everything in the world, because how would you apply for a role at Deutsche Bank and give us a cover letter for Morgan Stanley? So of course this person was clearly keen, they wanted to get a graduate role, but they weren't maybe keen to really join Deutsche Bank. And for us back then, like I said, I was in Deutsche Bank for 4 years. We wanted to see graduates who really wanted to join our investment bank. We didn't care if you wanted to join Morgan Stanley, if you wanted to join JP Morgan, if you wanted to join Barclays, if you wanted to join Citi. We wanted you to join Deutsche Bank for the reasons, for our ethos, for our morals, for what we can provide you as a graduate. So if we're seeing a cover letter that has Morgan Stanley written on it, that's a straight no. So just the small things. Not saying that as an undergrad you can't apply to so many. Don't get me wrong, before applying to Deutsche Bank I applied to all of them. But you just have to tailor your cover letter to the specific bank that you are applying to. Just so that as the individual who's reading, they'll be like, wow, you can say some of the things, read out, talk about some of the things that the bank stands for, highlight it in there. Looks like you've gone online, you've read, you've put it into there. There's nothing wrong with a bit of copying and pasting from the organisation's website. Obviously you've got to tweak it a little bit, what they stand for, what big business changes that they've done, what are some of the societies that you may want to join in the organisation, looking at their ESG, so the stuff they're doing on the economic, social, governance. Like, just look at those kind of things and put that into your cover letter. Tailor it to the bank that you want to join. I think that's very, very, very important.
Can I step in? Is that okay?
I think he has a question for me, but yeah, you can step in, Mario.
A very important point, if you don't mind. So I think what I get from that is just change the name in the cover letter. I wouldn't actually waste time on writing very detailed cover letters, because in my bank, although we ask for them, I've never seen a single one ever being read. Okay, it's way more important that you submit your application ASAP. I mean, the application process is September or October. Okay, what you want to have is that if your cover letter has 3 paragraphs, you tailor the first one and that's it. The other 2 paragraphs, just want to get it out as soon as possible, because you know, if you don't apply on time, then you definitely you're not gonna get the role.
I agree with Mario, but I wouldn't just say just change your name. I guess we're going to have different opinions on that, but decide who.
What I would add is the way in which you show that you know about the bank and the reasons why you want to join the bank is in the interview process.
Yeah, of course.
That's where you really show. But get your applications out as soon as possible.
Just to add to my book panels here, talking about cover letters, but also look at the job descriptions. Alright, align your experience with the job descriptions it states, because through some of you might have experience, some of you may not. I'm not really sure, but try to convert all of those and align them to what they specifically want and what they're looking for. Once you align them, that's then cut up their eye to looking at your CV, because the first round of securing a job to stand out is for you to have an attractive CV. You need to sell yourself in paper. Then when you secure an interview, you can sell yourself. It's very easy, right? But obviously it takes time. But sell yourself in paper, tailor it to what they want, what the job description says. That's what I'm just going to add to my thought of my.
One quick, I think it would be helpful. Use your previous interviews to avoid doing the same mistakes. That was really helpful for me. For example, I once had one of my first ever interviews was with Fidelity. I was so passionate about working for Fidelity. I answered. The first question was why Fidelity, and I spoke for like 5 minutes. And the HR lady didn't give a shit. She just didn't like. I saw it from the beginning. She just didn't want to kind of take me to the next round, because she has a list of questions and she couldn't go through them because I spoke for like so much on just why Fidelity. So I used that kind of one specific example to not do the same mistake again in the next interview, because you're not really going to get you're not going to have your first job from the first interview that you're going to have. So like use those experiences where you fail to avoid making the same mistakes. That's really helpful.
Can I add really the last thing? I think once you reach the interview level, you're already half there. So this is the mentality. And I think don't go to the interview of why they need to hire you, but with the mentality why they shouldn't hire you. So you are the person fit for the position. And it's true, my colleague or someone might have more experience, but everyone can learn, right? So bringing yourself and the way you show that you can do it is much more important than say I've done this for 5 years somewhere else. saying and showing this to people. So you need to go to an interview saying I'm the perfect person matching this today, matching this job description, and this how I want to fit everything. Tell me why you should interview me, and ask questions. The interview is 50% for them to understand who you are, and 50% for you to show them that you want to work with them, and to understand if you want to work for them. I had job offers and I didn't accept them, although they were good. It's because I didn't like the people I was speaking to. It's important that you like the place where you work.
Yes, I have two more tips about job interview. The first one, even if it's an online interview, please dress up in full. Okay, some students will just dress up the shirt but wear the short, okay, for the interview. But actually, why you need to dress up in full? Even you just show your upper part of the body in the interview, because it get you ready for the interview. Yeah, it's quite important. And you know that there is some unforeseeable circumstances when you have interview. If you wear a short and you need to stand up accidentally, it's very embarrassing. And also, I talked about the CV. So actually, for large company, they will use the AI to scan your CV. So that's why it is important to include some keywords in the job description in the CV, because some large company will scan your CV and find that there is not some keywords in the job description cannot be found in the CV, then you will be out. So because for large company, there are a lot of applicants, they don't need to interview all of them. Yeah, and I received some question in the manometer. So talks about the student got the internship in summer, and he want to stay connect with the college after the job. So any suggestion? Should they add the LinkedIn or
Get the phone number.
yes.
That's what I did with my manager.
Yeah.
I just get their phone number.
LinkedIn is good as well.
And then can connect that. Yeah.
Do you want to stay connected with the college?
Yeah, after the finishing the internship work.
Or with the colleagues.
Oh, okay.
The college, yeah, college, yeah.
Do a good job and make them be the ones that want to stay in touch with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then so that then you can message them like, oh, this is what I did, and then they can then pass the message.
It should be natural. It's just like you spend so much time with them. It's just, it will happen. If it's really bad, you could feel it, and then you're not really going to ask the phone number.
Yes, just don't be shy. Okay. Yeah, just don't
Make
be shy.
friends.
Yeah. So, and the last question, so to round up the whole event, so what will be your key takeaway on preparing for working in accounting and finance area?
Shall I start?
Yeah.
When you get out there, I actually have a plan for myself. You know, when they said like set your goals, it sounds cliche, but in order for you to find balance in your life, you need to set goals so that you know what is your priority year by year. When I said that, so that, through time you change your mind, right? But at least you know exactly where you want to be. Like for this year, I want to focus on my career, so I focus on my career. Your friends will understand. The following year, I want to enjoy life, so you enjoy life. So you have that. I personally have a goal for myself. So and that's how I manage my life. Even though my work is very stressful, don't get me wrong, I work extremely hard, long hours, but you need to look after yourself as well, and career and personal life, you need to find balance and set goals.
I'll say that, look, if you are pursuing a career in investment banking, as good as Westminster Business School is, you don't have a very high chance. I have friends that have been to Westminster Business School. I was very fortunate because I got my postgraduate degree paid for, but I have friends who were very determined to enter the industry and who paid for it themselves, right? So if you are very determined to be in this job, you have to try very, very hard. You have to any way in which you can develop your soft skills or demonstrate your interest for the role, you have to take it. And this university, if it's good for something, it's because there is room for you to build a society, be the president of the Economics and Finance Society, be the president of Westminster Business Consultants. That really sets you apart.
Meet people as well in London.
Yes, you meet lots of people, and then if you are trying hard, you realize that you are not getting, that your applications are not having a response, try to work for a few years, save money to pay for a postgraduate degree at, Imperial, LSE, one of the likes, and if you keep on trying very hard, you will definitely get the job.
Yeah, just to add, the alternative to a postgrad is a lot of you are Europeans or from all over the world, so very international. Go work for the regional office of EY or whatever. That's really, really helpful. I've seen so many people come from the Milano office of XYZ company or the Budapest office of KPMG or whatever it is. So it's not, if you didn't get something now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get it in the future, as long as you kind of keep going.
Cannot do this. To me, it's very different because I didn't do any postgrad. If you try hard, you'll get it. Doesn't matter how you need to be knocking doors out. It's how much you want it, you'll get it. There's no way. You don't have to have this. For me, Westminster was enough.
Yeah.
The person where I went to feature was the only person from maybe Westminster. There were other people. People did Imperial. People came from Bocconi, Milan. People did from, I don't know, ECB in France. Good University, Westminster name. I think the only things that can sell yourself is you. And when you go to an interview, you need to show this. When you go to, if you show them that you really want it, you really can. I think that's enough for them to make a choice between a person from LSE and myself.
Yeah, can I reiterate what she says? And I totally agree with you. And I don't think that you should feel like because you're at the University of Westminster, your chances are not high. So I would just counteract what's been mentioned by one of my panelists. At the end of the day, we know that those who come from Russell Group universities probably have a better chance just because of their university, but don't let the institution that you've studied at limit you or limit the faith that you have in yourself. All of us are sitting here and we all graduated from the University of Westminster, and we're testament to the fact that we've put in the hard work and we've got to the universities that we're at. So yes, this may not be a Russell Group university, quote unquote, but like I said, I'm involved in a lot of diversity and inclusion initiatives across different banks, and one thing that they are trying to push is the fact that we should stop limiting those who are not from Russell Group universities from entering those corporate organisations. So yes, the barriers may be higher, but that doesn't mean that you can't get there. And like I said, all 5 of us are testament to have been able to get in and breaking those ceilings and those walls. So if you have that tenacity, that dedication within yourself, based on all of the advice that we have given to you today, please keep pushing and make sure you get that work experience, you hone on your soft skills, and you push, because it will come to you one day. Don't have it in your mindset, because it may put you off now if you've just been told, oh, because you go Westminster, it's going to be very difficult. Please just try and push that to the side of yourself and focus on getting the good degrees, graduating very well, and giving yourself all of the other soft skills that we've mentioned to you today. When I graduated from the University of Westminster, with a few work experience here and there, I applied for roles and I got straight into Deutsche Bank. I wouldn't say that it's just me, but I was very hardworking. I was dedicated. I was keen, and I'm sure that I was up against those from Cambridge, Oxford, LSE. I got in from Westminster, no postgraduate degree. So please do just remember that don't let your university limit you from achieving success. We're all testament to that.
Yes, and if it's okay, I'll just go into second what my
thank you.
My partner was saying. She's actually also one of my inspiration to do well. Because obviously for me, with the NHS and university have helped me that, because I didn't have any work experience at all.
Yeah.
And the University of Westminster actually help you and prepare as much as possible if you reach out for what's happening next when you graduate. Connect with them. Just to add, I actually, with these events, one of the students actually, when I was telling about how's my NHS experience in placement, one of the students actually reached out to me after the talk because she was a little bit shy. She asked me, can you please mentor? I was probably mentoring her because she wanted to graduate with the first class and she want to be working somewhere, like she want to help. So, and now she's actually doing well. So again, if you put hard work to it, your hard work will pay off. And then your stay in touch with your classmates. They also become your mentor and inspiration. Like I've been working in NHS for 4 years. I actually don't want to leave because I love what I do. It sounds sad, but I love Excel and accounting. But I have friends who actually telling me, Lynn, Romlin, it's time for you to move on. And I'm like, move on. Look at the corporate ladder. Go in private. You can do this. they actually also help. So that's just what I'm just going to add.
And again, to reiterate, if you go to a good university or I don't know, Russell Group University, the only things that does is take you to an interview. It doesn't do anything else. It will take you to the interview. From the interview to getting a job, they said you.
Correct.
So maybe you have a lesser chance to get to an interview if you're from Westminster. I didn't have this because when I was at Westminster, I had interview with Deutsche myself, I interviewed with investment banks.
Correct.
So it's just you be able to show what you can give in.
Agreed.
I got a lot from Imperial than
Yeah,
just
I'm
getting
sure.
to the
This
interview.
is
I
what I'm
can
saying.
guarantee you that. So
Surely from a Russell Group, you'll
Yeah.
get maybe more interview, but this
That doesn't get you
does
the
not
job.
the limiting
Yes.
factor.
It's not the
Yourself
be all
the-
end all at all.
Exactly. You need to bring your personality at work as well.
100%.
You know, your personality will get you somewhere.
Not the
That's-
union you
yeah.
mentioned.
No, that's and also what you've been through. Because at the end of the day, it's your journey.
Yep.
You know, it's not about where you study, and you know, I did consider as well Macti City with terms of competition with a lot of people, and then with the years of background of accounting, when I hear all this, what other people say, oh, I have 3 years, I was working while I was in first year. You know, that actually kind of also intimidated me, but believe in yourself, guys, believe in yourself, you got this.
I think what's interesting about, as you guys are like looking at us from that side, is that you can see that there's no one right formula for life in general. So that's kind of a really good example of like what's in front of you or what's ahead of you as you go outside university, is that there are many different ways of getting to the same spot, just like in maths, 1 + 1 = 2, or 4 - 4 = 2, or 4 - 2 = 2. So there's more than one approach to getting things. But one thing that I think has always really resonated with me, and actually I have seen it manifest in like my practical life experience, is that it really is a marathon. I don't know if you guys have heard of the story of the hare and the turtle.
Yeah.
It's like this race between a hare and a turtle. A hare is basically a rabbit, pretty much. And the turtle beat the hare because it's steady, slow and steady. Whereas the hare is very kind of prideful and arrogant and very kind of hasty and quick. In the long run, it's all about you competing with yourself and you being successful if you kind of take it slow and steady. It's really boring if it's slow and steady, but you'll get there. It doesn't really matter where you're from or what you do. Compound interest will play its magic.
Yeah, so the key takeaways I learned is the first one, have a clear goal. The second one, hardworking, and also value your friendship with your classmate now, because you find that once you graduate, you find that it is not easy to build up the friendship with your in your workplace. Okay, and also the friendship, that means your university classmate can give you support even after graduation. So, so thank you for the time. So let's give a big hand to all the alumni. So they share their very good experience when they graduate. They work in work after graduation, their working place, what kind of challenge they will face. So now I give the times to Alumni team to talk about some resources that provide by our university to enhance your employability.
Massive thanks, guys. That was awesome. My name's Hayden. I manage the alumni engagement team, and my colleague Alexandra here basically made all this happen. So huge round of applause. And to our panelists, they're doing this all for free, and they're doing it all for you, just to help boost your employability options, your development options. So yeah, huge thanks again, and to Jason. We've just got, it won't take long, it's not going to be to death by PowerPoint, but what it takes is another alumni speaker series. Basically, unlike what comes next, it's not subject or industry specific, so we get in a range of alumni, they're all graduates, that's a unique thing. They speak about personal, professional development related topics. Got a couple coming up that are online. One was in person, but there's a bloody TfL strike on the date, so it's the 10th of November. What it takes to be an influential communicator. It's a great speaker who's done a similar version of the talk pre-COVID before. She's great. There's another one, a panel on imposter syndrome, which is coming up soon as well online, and there'll be more to come. We've got one in February with Tej and Tara Lalvani. Tej was it's the show Dragon's Den. He was one of the dragons on there, and he's like a vitamin boss. I should know more, but I can't quite remember. But he's now a visiting professor here, and that should be pretty cool. And Alex will share some other things.
Yeah, I'll share just a tiny bit of mentoring and then another initiative that we have.
So basically we've got 3 mentoring programs. One is a career mentoring program, then we have the Ask a Mentor program, and a group mentoring, which is course aligned. I really suggest looking out for them and at least doing the Ask a Mentor once. For context, I'm doing a master's on the side in air transport management. And last year, because I actually just graduated from Westminster last year, I reached out to someone through Ask a Mentor. I just had questions about what is aviation like, what am I going to do, and what can I go into, basically. And then she connected me to someone that used to be her colleague, and she did her master's at a university in air transport management. I called her. I had a bunch of random questions just about the university course, and at the end she was like, do you want to do an internship with me? So I didn't even ask her anything about the internship, but it opened up a network for me through her. So I would strongly suggest doing it at least once. It can get you somewhere. You can do it a couple of times as well. It's really useful. And then we've got Westminster Working Cultures. I recognize a few people here that have been on it. And so basically Westminster Working Cultures are a short-term mobility program. We've got 3 programs, which is the UK, the international, and the professional program. Just to flag, the UK and the international are only open to undergraduate students. The UK program is here in the UK. The international ones, they take you on a trip to, so my colleagues have just returned from Washington and Toronto. In January, they're taking 20 students on each trip, one to Cairo, one to Mumbai. So there are a lot of good things. It's fully funded. You have to pay, I think, £100, but that's it. Everything else is funded. It is very useful for your employability. We've had someone on the April and June program on the UK one who got taken on the Washington trip. And in the June program, she connected with one of the speakers who offered her an internship over the summer and then offered her a job at the end. She's now going into her 3rd year, but she has a job lined up after. So I strongly suggest taking opportunity and taking the opportunity and doing these things, because you never know who you're going to talk to, who's going to enable you to basically work somewhere. And even now, do talk to our panel members a little afterwards if you have questions, because they might remember you in the future, and then if you want to apply somewhere where they have already worked or where they know someone, they might be able to be like, okay, yeah, I can put it in a good word for you. So yeah, just take advantage of opportunities like this. And thank you again for everyone.
Thank you.